Small talk can be awkward, and on Zoom, it's even harder. If you're an engineer leading meetings, you may wonder, how do I get people talking without sounding fake? The good news is that small talk isn't about talking about the weather. It's about making people feel seen. Today, we'll talk about how to get good at small talk on Zoom. I'll show you a technique that helps leaders break the ice easily and naturally. And breaking the ice is good to get people to engage, to listen to you, and also to respect you as a leader. It also does one more thing. It helps you build trust with your team. I was working with one of my engineering clients. Like many technical leaders, he's wondering how to conduct better meetings on Zoom. Those Zoom meetings are about 30 to 40 minutes long. He has to provide his updates, and there are about 10 to 20 engineering managers. Now, he came to me explaining that he hasn't been able to engage his managers. Typically, what he says is, how was your morning? How's your weekend? How are the kids? Any updates you guys have for me? And you could just see the engineers roll their eyes or continue to draw in their notepad. He is tasked with not only engaging the engineers, but also inspiring them to continue to be productive. Of course, that's what every leader does. What you shouldn't do in these Zoom meetings is start by saying, how are you doing? How's the weekend? How's the weather? These type of questions don't serve in direct communications or confident communication because they don't create any sort of engagement or curiosity. And quite frankly, they're bland questions, but we all do it. So here's the shift. Think of Zoom meetings as a stage and you're the actor. I always encourage you to take some acting classes or showcase a little bit of your personality because people connect with other people. So instead of asking these questions that are not as meaningful, you can ask open-ended questions that inspire curiosity. Notice when you ask, I'm curious to learn what you thought about this project. I'm curious to understand how the project is going for you. And you always want to tie it back to your personal story. I'm curious because what I find curious about this project is. So the word curiosity drives cognition and it inspires people to be open rather than defensive. Now, let's say you still don't get that engagement and you see that people are bored and frustrated in your meeting. What I like to do is I like to put stuff on my wall. If you have background, if you have flags or photos or family pictures or artwork, what you can say during your Zoom meeting is, I'm curious to learn what's on your wall. So for example, in Spain, now I'm in Czech Republic, but in Spain, I have a Berkeley flag and I have a Route 66 sticker and I have different posters because it inspires my clients to ask questions and then we could have a conversation starter. This is a small talk opportunity. So before you even start that Zoom meeting, you could have small talk around what's on your wall. So it's super important to look at what's on the person's wall. Another way that I engage in small talk is, let's say our shirts are matching. Oh, I like that blue. Yeah, we have the same color. If you have, let's say, 20 people in the room, you go, John, I like your shirt wearing. Jane, you got a new haircut. Little things you notice, you could pay a compliment that works a long way. Or another way to engage in small talk is if you remember what the person has said from like a previous meeting. So for example, if they said their daughter was going to soccer practice, you can say, how's your daughter doing? How did that soccer practice go? Which is why it's important to practice active listening and write down notes, not just about the software update, but about people's behaviors or something personal touch to that person, something personal that they have revealed, or personal touch being like the same sweater you're wearing, the same color. So all of these details matter as micro engagements to get people interested in what you have to say, to pay attention and to break the ice. Small talk is a mechanism that we use to break the ice. You find points of engagement and interest that are curiosity driven to start building rapport, and we're gonna have another video on that and how to create those moments of common interests. A lot of engineers I know have medals because they race, they do competitive sports or awards. You can also talk about that. These topics create meaningful conversations They're the easiest way to break the ice. A lot of people think, as I said before, small talk is, how are the kids? How was your weekend? No, it's almost like reading from a script. It's almost like doing a checkbox, like I need to ask this question, and people feel that energy. There's energy behind words, so use your words wisely, which translates to ask better questions. My favorite icebreaker and opportunity for small talk is a pet in the background. Usually cats walk across the keyboard, and I always say, what's your name? What's your cat's name? What kind of cat is that? It's super easy and fun, and everybody loves furry animals. And of course, if you have 20 engineers on your team, you may not be able to do small talk with everyone or notice everybody's background. But you can pick 2 or 3 of your engineers and build rapport or notice their background or start asking questions. You don't have to do it with every single person. Notice who you engaged, and so that in your next meeting, you could engage 3 other engineers, and then you could engage 3 more engineers. And you'll see that you've now cycled through all your engineering managers, and each person has had an opportunity to engage with you. And so people feel seen and heard. And if they feel seen and heard, they will respect you as the engineering director. Now, let's say you want to focus solely on your software updates and you don't have a lot of time to engage your team. Let's say you have maybe 5-10 minutes to do your update before everybody else speaks, because you have what I call it crunch time. You have to get through the updates. You have a lot of responsibility. You have limited time. I still think that if you engage one person or establish one question or one comment about the background, you're still doing a good job. So just because you don't have enough time doesn't mean that you can't practice this technique. You will just have less time for engagement, but you still can be effective with breaking the ice and establishing small talk in the beginning by asking better questions. So a practical example for that is I spent an hour debugging the software. I found something interesting. Now, normally when I debug software, I do this, and this time I found this. You can kind of do a lot of like before and after, or you could say I found something new. People like novelty. So if you speak to novelty, that's a great way to establish small talk and breaking the ice, because it creates a curiosity, like what did you find, like what's interesting. And of course you're doing the same software update and you're doing the same speech every week, so sometimes you're wondering, am I interesting, is it interesting? But there's always ways to engage. And I love storytelling, and I'm going to do another video on storytelling that you could use for small talk and breaking the ice, because it's always effective. There's plenty of questions that we can ask our teams as engineering leaders or as business leaders in general. And I like to recommend this, is that when you ask interesting questions that people respond, write them down. Write down those questions and keep a questions log in your journal, and notice which questions really resonated with your team. One of the questions my engineers asked recently was, what was one tool that we've implemented recently that made your job easier or made your workflow easier? Because people will give you feedback. Or what's one thing you've learned this week? Or what is the one tool that we wish you had that we still haven't developed? Ask the rest of the engineers in the room. Raise your hand how many of you would like that implemented. So if you take a tally or a poll, it also creates engagement. If you don't want to ask engineers to raise your hand, in Zoom, there's that little like hand emoji, and you could say, drop a hand in the message. That works. Let's recap. These questions are more engaging than asking about the weather or how your weekend is going. They're excellent icebreakers, excellent opportunities for small talk. And if I could leave you with this one point, great small talk is about creating opportunities for curiosity. I noticed that when I was working in tech, the best engineering leaders did not force conversation. They inspired conversation. The best engineering leaders didn't force people to speak up. They got people excited to speak up because they noticed people. They noticed what they were saying. They noticed what was on their walls. They noticed their gestures, their behaviors, their moods. They noticed everything. They were like detectives. And when people feel noticed, they're more likely to engage and participate. in your Zoom meeting. So before your next Zoom meeting, don't ask, how's everything going? How's the weather? How'd your weekend? Instead, notice one interesting detail and then ask a genuine question, an open-ended question specifically, and watch how easier the dialogue becomes. And notice that engagement, take notes in your journal, and repeat. Repeat that method then in your next call. If you found this video helpful, in the next video we'll talk about how to make small talk sound more natural. We end each episode with do the best that you can every day.